There's something alluring about a rare color, a unique shade that makes you stop and stare. But what if those captivating hues hid a darker side? Today, we're diving into the world of colors, not just rare, but dangerous and sometimes deadly. From ancient pigments derived from toxic minerals to modern inventions pushing the boundaries of science, we'll uncover the stories behind these captivating colors. Get ready to have your mind blown, because some of these tales are seriously darker than you could ever imagine. Buckle up, because this first one is truly disturbing. Let's talk about mummy brown. You heard that right? The name isn't a metaphor. This pigment was literally made from Egyptian mummies. I'm talking ground-up remains of ancient Egyptians mixed with resins and oils to create a brown paint. Can you imagine being an artist centuries ago, grinding up a mummy to capture the perfect shade of brown? It seriously makes you wonder what kind of person thought, hey, dead bodies would make an excellent art supply. Apparently, this pigment was prized for its transparency and richness, used by artists like pre-Raphaelite painter Edward Burne-Jones. The use of mummy brown began in the 16th century, peaked in the 18th century, and thankfully, the practice eventually died out in the early 20th century. Imagine the ethical implications, the disrespect for the dead. It's a stark reminder of how far we've come, but also how morbid and bizarre history can be. There's even a story of a horrified artist who, upon discovering the true origin of his mummy brown paint, gave his tube a proper burial in his backyard. Imagine having a painting in your house, a beautiful landscape maybe, and then discovering that the warm brown tones were achieved using actual human remains. The paint itself came in tubes, just like modern paints, and was used by many artists who were completely unaware of its gruesome origins. Artists would mix it on their palettes, blending it with other colors to create rich, earthy tones that were highly sought after. In the art studios of the time, mummy brown was just another tool, a means to an end in the pursuit of artistic perfection. But think about the source. These were once people, buried with care in their tombs, only to be dug up centuries later and turned into paint. The ethical debates surrounding this practice are intense. Was it a form of desecration, or simply a product of its time? Today we have a much greater respect for cultural heritage and the remains of the dead, but back then, it was a different story. Artists and historians today look back on the use of mummy brown with a mix of fascination and horror. Thankfully, we now have ethical alternatives and no longer need to rely on such macabre sources for our art supplies. But the paintings created with mummy brown still exist, a testament to a time when the boundaries of art and ethics were far more blurred. It's a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling chapter in the history of art, reminding us of the lengths to which people will go in the name of creativity. Next time you visit a historical art museum, take a moment to consider the stories behind the materials used in the artworks. You might just find yourself looking at a painting in a whole new light, knowing the dark history behind its creation. And let's be grateful that today we have moved beyond such practices, respecting both the living and the dead in our pursuit of beauty. Let's move on to another color with a deadly secret, Scheele's green. This vivid, almost neon green pigment was all the rage in the 19th century. It was used in everything from wallpaper and paint to clothing, and even, wait for it, artificial flowers. Imagine decorating your entire house with this vibrant green, completely unaware of the danger lurking within those beautiful walls. You see, Scheele's green contains copper arsenite. You know, arsenic, the poison famously used in countless murder mysteries. This pigment was so toxic that people living and working in these environments often suffered from arsenic poisoning. Headaches, vomiting, convulsions, you name it. There are even theories that Napoleon Bonaparte's death was caused by arsenic poisoning from the Scheele's green wallpaper in his home. Imagine that, dying from your own stylish wallpaper. The popularity of Scheele's green eventually waned as its toxic nature became widely known. But it serves as a cautionary tale of the unintended consequences of our fascination with color. Get ready to dive into the lap of luxury, because this next color was literally worth more than gold. We're talking about Tyrian purple, a dye so rare and expensive that it became a symbol of royalty and power in ancient times. This vivid purple dye was extracted from a tiny sea snail found in the Mediterranean. And when I say tiny, I mean, it took thousands upon thousands of these snails to produce even a small amount of dye. We're talking about a labor-intensive process that involved harvesting these snails, extracting a gland, and then exposing the secretions to sunlight. The result? A stunning purple dye that was colour-fast and incredibly vibrant. This dye was so precious that it was reserved for royalty and the very elite in ancient Rome. Queen Elizabeth I's sumptuary laws forbid anyone but the royal family to wear purple. People literally killed for this colour. The cost of Tyrian purple was astronomical, making it a status symbol that only the wealthiest could afford. In 1856, 18-year-old English chemist William Henry Perkin, while working on an anti-malaria treatment, accidentally created a synthetic purple, making purple available to everyone. Get ready to have your minds blown, because this next one is straight out of a science fiction movie. We're talking about Vantablack, the darkest material known to man. Seriously, this stuff is so black, it absorbs over 99.965% of visible light. Imagine staring into a void, a depth of blackness that seems to swallow everything around it. That's Vantablack. It's made using carbon nanotubes, which are basically tiny tubes of carbon that are incredibly light and strong. This material has some seriously wild applications, from telescopes that can see further into space to military camouflage that renders objects practically invisible. But it's also sparked a lot of controversy. The artist, Anish Kapoor, acquired the exclusive rights to use Vantablack in art, causing a huge uproar in the art community. Many artists felt that Kapoor was stifling creativity by monopolizing this unique material. Let's talk about a color that has captivated artists for centuries: vermilion. This vibrant, fiery red pigment has graced the canvases of masterpieces, adding a touch of brilliance and intensity to countless works of art. But behind its beauty lies a toxic secret. You see, vermilion is made from cinnabar, a mineral that contains mercury sulfide. And as you might know, mercury is not exactly known for its health benefits. Exposure to mercury can cause a whole host of health issues, from tremors and mood swings to kidney damage and even death. And yet, artists throughout history, from the ancient Romans to Renaissance masters, were drawn to vermilion's captivating hue. Imagine grinding up this toxic mineral, unaware of the danger lurking within its vibrant dust. The use of vermilion continued for centuries, even after its toxic properties became known. Get ready for another dose of art history with a dark side, guys, because this next color was a staple in the artist's palette for centuries: lead white. This bright, opaque white pigment was prized for its covering power and ability to create smooth, luminous effects. Sounds great, right? Well, here's the catch. Lead white is made from, you guessed it, lead. And lead, as we all know, is incredibly toxic. We're talking about a pigment that has been linked to a whole host of health problems, including anemia, brain damage, and even death. And yet, for centuries, artists used lead white extensively in their paintings, completely unaware of the silent danger lurking on their canvases. Imagine the irony of creating a masterpiece that could slowly poison you. Okay, hold on to your hats, because this next color is literally radioactive. We're talking about uranium orange, a pigment that glows in the dark. Sounds cool, right? Well, maybe not so much when you consider that it emits harmful radiation. Uranium orange gets its name from, you guessed it, uranium. This radioactive element was used to create a range of vibrant orange and yellow glazes for ceramics and glassware in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Imagine sipping your morning coffee from a cup glazed with uranium orange, completely unaware of the invisible danger lurking within. The use of uranium orange in everyday objects eventually declined as the harmful effects of radiation became widely known. Get ready for a story that's both fascinating and heartbreaking. This one is about radium girls, the women who painted watch dials with luminous paint in the early 20th century. These women were instructed to lick and use their lips to shape their brushes to a fine point, unknowingly ingesting small amounts of radium with every lick. Radium, as you might know, is highly radioactive and incredibly dangerous. The women who worked in these factories were exposed to extremely high levels of radiation, leading to devastating health consequences. Imagine the horror of realizing that the very thing you worked with every day, the thing that made those watch dials glow so beautifully, was slowly killing you. The Radium Girl's story is a tragic reminder of the human cost of industrial progress. Let's wrap up this colourful journey with a pigment that's both beautiful and treacherous, Gamboge yellow. This vibrant, sunny yellow has been prized by artists for centuries, used to create luminous landscapes and glowing depictions of gold. But behind its cheerful facade lies a darker side. Gamboge yellow is derived from the resin of trees found in Southeast Asia. This resin contains a toxic compound that can cause severe digestive issues, including vomiting and diarrhea. Imagine the irony of using a colour that evokes sunshine and warmth to create a masterpiece, only to be struck down by its toxic effects. Despite its known toxicity, Gamboge yellow continued to be used in art well into the 21st century. From the gruesome origins of Mummy Brown to the radioactive glow of uranium orange, we've journeyed through a spectrum of colours that are as fascinating as they are dangerous. It's a reminder that the pursuit of beauty and innovation often comes at a cost, and that even the most seemingly harmless things can harbour hidden dangers. Stay creative, but also stay safe when exploring the colours of our world. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.